Another week 8 now. How's it going, Juan? Feels amazing to be here. We just wrapped up a seminar as well, and we had a bunch of people speaking, a couple of new faces as well. So it feels like everything is going in a progression moving forward, which is amazing. Throughout this week, I got some insight actually from Ryder. I believe it was on Thursday. We were having a conversation and he goes into telling me about a book that he's reading because he sees that I'm also reading one, the a master secret whisper, I believe it is. And so it's from the same author. And so he goes on to tell me about the mind and how we have to think of the mind as almost like this other being, this other person, like maybe you and I per se. You and I are speaking, you're giving insights to all of us, and I have to take everything that I hear from you and then make decisions out of everything that's coming in that I'm filtering through my ears or my head. So, and in that filtering process, you have to make a decision. Okay, what things am I keeping, or what things resonate with me right now? And maybe things that'll resonate with me later on, those things are going to come to me when they do. But I have to make a decision that the things that don't resonate with me, just, let them be, let them go. And that was such an interesting thought to go through because I never looked at that, or I never thought of my mind in that process. And so I wanted to see if you could elaborate maybe a little bit more on that insight, how we could have a different, I feel like, relationship with the mind.
Well, the best way I can frame it for you is that the mind is my tool. So my mind is my tool. My body is my tool. And for me, I lead with my heart in front. So when you think about the mind, it has an analytical side and it also has a primitive side, which is like your impulses. When you understand this, then you have to start asking yourself, how do you categorize everything? How do you compare? So it's the perfect word is you want to put things into compartments, right? And the best way to explain it is, so I understand I have a primitive side and I have an analytical side. I understand I have a subconscious, which is a supercomputer, that's collecting all the impressions that have ever happened in my life, everything I've ever read, everything I've ever listened, everything I've ever acquired through the senses has been filtered into that subconscious. Conscious is what I'm choosing to put my attention on. Best way to explain it is if you put out a magnifying glass and you put the sun through it, then that little point, that's your conscious awareness. That's your attention. So now when you understand this, then you understand that what's normally speaking is your analytical, because your analytical mind has been set up to protect you from dangers. It's been set up for you to survive, because before civilization, before anything, we were in the wild. We're hunter gatherers. As human beings, then we started developing tribes, and little by little we got a little bit more sophisticated. But you needed to be aware of danger, and you needed to just move on impulse. You needed to react. You couldn't just freeze and be like, hey, what's going on? Because by the time that happens, you have a predator and the predator already got you. But now that we're civilized, those impulses, all that is still there to protect us. So most of the time, your mind is going to make sure that you're staying in your comfort zone. It's going to talk you out of doing things. It's going to say, hey, don't go up to that person because chances are this is going to happen. And it doesn't want you to suffer negative emotions. It doesn't want you to suffer any type of defeat. It makes you afraid to the idea of failure. But when you live with your heart in front, Your heart, that doesn't want to possess anything. Your heart is unconditional. See what I mean? So what happens when you're living an unconditional life? That means that you are doing things, you're taking actions without expectations. So what happens when you're living your life without expectations? That means that you're willing to take the risk of talking to that person to make a deal. You're willing to ask out that girl, ask out that guy. You're willing to take that risk of starting a business. You're willing to take the risk of changing jobs. You're willing to take the risk of going into the unknown. Because end of the day, you start to see life as it is. So the mind wants to possess everything. And what does that mean, that it wants to possess everything? That's when you have a codependent relationship. Like, I want to possess that human being. These are my expectations for that human being. That human being needs to be like this. You know, when I want this, I expect it like this. And I want that. And if I go to this job, this is the way I want the job to treat me. This is the way I want the job to run. Or if I'm going to start this business, this is the way I want it to be. This is the way I expect the customers to go. And I expect them to handle themselves. This is the way I expect my employees to be. But that doesn't work. Because in reality, in all those scenarios, we are all individuals. So you can never control other individuals. That doesn't make sense. And even if for some time, they'll eventually, their consciousness will eventually grow. So when that's your perspective, you'll end up alone. Therefore, what you really want to do is collaborate. What you really want to do is to do things without expectations. You know, if you're going to develop someone, develop them to develop them. Don't develop them because you expect them to take care of your life or because you expect them to give you this or give you that. No, listen, you're responsible for your own life. Set up your own life. You see what I'm saying? And then help others set up theirs. Because if you know a way, help others. Now, if as you're helping others, there's reciprocation and you guys end up building together and all of a sudden it becomes a slingshot, relationship where now I slingshot this person ahead. So now they're ahead of me. Now that they're ahead, they're slingshotting me up. So now I'm ahead. And that, you see that? It's reciprocation. It continues to happen. But if you are a victim to your mind, then you're forever going to stay in the same place. Because every single time your mind criticizes something that you're doing that's different, you're going to listen to it. Every single time you have a new idea, you're not going to act on it. Every single time you're like, hey, today's the day I'm going to start this new habit, your mind's going to say, no, just stay in bed. Oh, no, go meet up with so-and-so. Oh, no, just go to the movies. Oh, no, go to the bar. Like, it's going to tell you to do what it knows because it knows that as long as you're within those parameters, you're safe. It automatically knows that as long as I live this familiar present that I already know, this is going to be the outcome because it wants to possess the outcome. It wants to be in control of what it's going to turn out into. But when you go and you live with the heart in front and you're living an unconditional life, one without expectations, then you're going to forever go into what you don't know. And when you go into what you don't know, that's what expands you. Because now you're going to go into here. Now you're going to meet this person. Now this person, when you go back to your life, they have an opportunity that can actually go and take your life further with what it is that you already know or do. For me, let's say it's I'm in the business of high performance human beings. So that person now is going to put me in contact with this corporation, and now I'm going to do a presentation for this corporation and so forth. And now it's become a relationship from business to business. Now, the beautiful part is that when you do things like that, then that experience, now you go and you bring it back to your core business. For me, it's Get Fitness. Every single time I do a corporate consultation or I work at a new school, whether I do leadership development or I do, kid curriculums and training their subconscious so that way that they have more confidence in actually doing new things in life and experiencing life, or whether I'm talking books or I'm public speaking, whatever the case may be, it's because I'm leading with my heart. And then using the knowing that I have, I'm putting it into my awareness and using it in real time and expanding on it. Therefore, now your mind starts doing pattern recognition. So your skills keep becoming better and better, no matter what situation you're going to, because you're going to all these different environments. But if the mind is in front, that's impossible, because you'll never go into that. Now, this is the other thing, right? Then if you're not going into these other, for unfamiliar presence to create these unfamiliar futures, that means that your mind is shooting. If it's not the emotion of fear, then it's the emotion of anxiety, or it's an emotion of feeling like you're not enough, or an emotion of doubt. So when you're observing your emotional state, we identify as our emotional fitness. Is that really what I want to feel? And what's the problem with that? That if that's what's stopping me, if those emotions are what are stopping me from going into these unfamiliar presents and futures for different outcomes and new experiences of expansion, then that means that that's the reflection of my emotion on the day-to-day basis. So the first thing you need to do is change what you got going on in here. Before you do anything else, if we're talking about the mind is a tool, so is your body. So are your emotions. They're your tools. How are you going to calibrate yourself to go out into the world? How are you going to calibrate yourself to move forward? Are you really going to go out there with low-level emotions of apathy, fear, anger? You see what I'm saying? Or are you going to calibrate yourself with high-level emotions? Courage, willingness, acceptance, wisdom, love, joy. Because people tell you, oh, you know what? I can't just do that. And they're absolutely right, because they haven't made the decision to do it. So the real obstacle is, right? If you're unaware, how do we make you aware? How do we make you aware that you are not your mind? That your mind is your tool? That, whenever you're receiving and you're in a frequency that you're receiving these negative thoughts, that you don't have to follow them. How do we make you aware that when you have these low level of emotions, you can change them? And it's very tough, because if I've never fell in love in my life, can I know what love is? And notice, I'm not talking about the perception of what I think love is. I'm talking about the perception of really knowing what love is. Can I know what joy is if I've never felt joy in my life? So do I have that inside me? If I haven't experienced something in life, I can't have it inside me. But if I forever stay in the same environment, I can never grow to understand these other high-level emotions. If I forever listen to what my mind tells me and I stay in a safe, comfortable place, I can never discover new things. I can never expand. I can never know that I can choose to observe my mind. I can never know that an actual flow state exists. Therefore, the number one thing that we need to learn in life is how to actually control this life experience. The most incredible machinery ever built in this world in our lifetime is this. But if you don't have a teacher to guide you, if you don't have a discipline to learn it and to expand on your awareness, how do you ever know these things? See, you gotta get fitness. We're teaching physical fitness, but we're also teaching mental and emotional fitness. And our philosophy is that when you master all three, then energetic fitness is born. And energetic fitness is how we send you out into the world. You're in control of your energy. Because what happens when you have a strong physical fitness and you're in good health and your body has vitality to go through your day? What happens when you have mental fitness and you can control the right thoughts? Because we read books looking for inspiration or conversations with great ideas. What happens when you have the emotional fitness to know, hey, you know what? I do feel bad emotion right now. Let me let this bad emotion go through, right? Before I respond to this individual that is causing this stimulus to give me this bad emotion. But most people react on impulse. Sometimes you guys just say, I need 5-10 minutes, I'll be back. Because I've never known anyone to produce a positive outcome from negative emotions. I've never known anyone to make better decisions from negative emotions. So instead, if you understand this, you understand that peace and a place of joy inside is the best chemistry you can have to make decisions. And if you're aware on that, you're not going to make decisions when you're in a bad mood. You're going to wait for that negative emotion to pass. You're not going to speak when have negative emotions and bad moods going on. You're going to wait for that emotion to pass. Now, notice, I ain't say repress. You can't suppress. If you do that, if you deny it, then what's going to end up happening is you end up exploding. Especially if you're unaware. What I'm saying is, before you take action, wait to be in the right state.
That's amazing. I'd love to be able to segue that into a little bit, maybe like a moment of vulnerability in the sense of, I don't know, tell me of a moment where you feel like in your life you've encountered those thoughts or like that conflict in your mind where you had to now step back maybe, and unfortunately you reflecting back now, you didn't make the best decision. Has there been a moment in your life?
Oh, yeah. I can tell you, if anything, probably there was a relationship I was once in. Her name was Elizabeth. And you know what? I didn't have this calmness. So I let the environment at the time, all that negativity, I became it. So what does that mean? This is my natural state. But until you've developed it through practice, eventually, it's like they say, you become what you surround yourself with. And unfortunately, sometimes when you're really happy, the world around you becomes negative. What I can tell you is I wasn't mature enough back then. I wasn't mature enough with her responsibilities at the time. She had kids. I wasn't there. And I don't blame anyone. What I understand is that I wasn't at that level yet. I wasn't ready. Because at that time, the negative energy around, her life, my life, it was stronger than what I was. But with that being said, That's when I learned I need to become more. Then the next relationship in my life was Maya. And with her, she just didn't let me expand as a person. What I can say about that, she's a good human being. She's an incredible woman. But at that moment, she wasn't mature enough. And that's kind of like the way life builds you. There's a moment where you're not ready. Then there's a moment when the next person's not ready. And then you get here. And once you're here, right, you see things completely different. You, instead of looking to be with someone to complete you, is the opposite. You actually go and you complete you. Now, what I can tell you, I don't know what the future has for me. My wish is to have kids one day. My wishes are to get married one day. But what I understand is that I would never do either one at the expense of myself or that individual. Sometimes you have to have the courage to say, I'm not built for you and you're not built for me. Because sometimes two people are compromising. But if I'm not good or you're not good, then it doesn't work. Because the idea of companionship is two lives living alongside each other. And that's really what it comes down to. And like anything, it takes work. And you have to be ready, and you have to know that you have to surrender to that person. And vice versa, that person surrenders to you, in the sense that you're always making decisions with that person in mind, because it's a duality where whatever you do does affect that person and vice versa. Now, if the decisions you guys are making, they're not magical and it's not leading to more magic and there's not understanding, then it's not the right fit. But if it is, then just nurture it, take care of it. And don't stop putting effort into it. Just like your career or your life's work, you got to put effort into it daily. Relationships are the same thing. You have to put effort into them. Don't just expect it. And also be aware that not everyone communicates and expresses love the way you do. So pay attention to what they are doing. You might be the one planning the trips or picking the restaurants or, giving the cards or the flowers or what that may be. But that person might be the one who's making sure that you have great relationships with your friends. That person might be the one that makes sure that you come home to a warm meal. That person might be the one that knows that you like your shirts ironed a certain way and they might iron it. Or vice versa. You might iron their dress, it's those little things, those little details. That person might make sure that the bed's always made because they know you enjoy coming home to a homemade bed. Don't take those things for granted, because so often people take those things for granted. Because they're not getting what they expect to get. They're like, oh man, this person's not putting effort. But no, you're not paying attention. And then unfortunately, a lot of people, they only notice it when it's gone. Now it's like, oh man, the bed's not made. Oh man, there's no soap or shampoo in the shower. Oh man, like, damn, the savings is not the same because, that person was always on top of me, making sure that my savings was good. It's like little things. I think nowadays, right? People expect like that, and they think that it's these external things that matter. But really, it's about the internal. It's like what do people do for you so you can internally be at peace? Like when you been out in this world and you had a hard day, and like you worked really hard. If someone can bring you peace, if someone can help you disconnect, what a blessing. And enjoy that. Why is it that people now think that people have to go tit for tat? It's not tit for tat. Listen, if you're giving with an expectation, then don't give. If you're gonna give, just give because you give. Don't do things because you expect this, because then now you're setting up for disappointment. So you're the one who's creating the problems to begin with. How about the idea that you're doing what you want to do, and if you don't want to do it, don't do it. Don't create a debt. Like that. And the most beautiful thing you can ever find in this world is conversation. Find a partner that you can have a real conversation with. Find a partner that is not you, but knows their life, and you know your life. And then it's beautiful because now you're both adding to each other. But the fact that you guys can have a conversation and build, that's everything. That you can talk about point of views, mental models, that's everything. That you can talk about scenarios, that's everything. Because that's really where it's at. If someone can articulate, if someone knows the meaning of the words that they're using, and they're using it with intention, words are powerful. Imagine that the love of your life understands the power of words and how to communicate to your heart and your spirit. Wow. Imagine. What would that feel like? Forget about what you can get me. Forget about what you could do for me. Forget about what I want. No, you kidding me? I just can't wait to talk to you. In a world where we're constantly developing others, like, wow. To have someone to build a conversation with. To have someone that I know that every single time we have a conversation, it's like we're exploring the world brand new again. I'm discovering something new with every dialogue. I'm expanding my whole being with every word. Find someone who can express who they are. And every day will be brand new.
Hindsight is 2020. And so it's now you're able to reflect on a lot of those things and realize, okay, like I was immature and XYZ. I know for myself, I consider a pivotal moment in my life to have happened 8 to 9 months ago, where I had a spiritual awakening, you could call it, amongst many other things, and where I reflected on a lot of points in my life that I was able to dig into, see things, signs about myself that were, you know, that needed some improvement on. And so I'm interested to see if at any point, maybe after you got out of those relationships, or maybe it happened, when it was a bit too late, let's say, what was the moment of reflection for you where you were like able to make that change?
Well, for me, right, I've always been aware. I've been reflecting my whole life. It's not new. What I can tell you is, right, that up to the time that I met Elizabeth, I didn't know what love was. I have it inside me. I've never surrendered to anyone. So that was the moment I surrendered for the first time ever that I truly opened my heart. But the beautiful part that happens with that, once you do that, then when you look at life after that moment and your heart's open, no matter what, your heart never closes. So after that, then I was able to look at everyone and everything with love. I was able to finally have compassion. So if I could say the most life-changing moment was that because of Elizabeth, I became compassionate. Without that happening, I would never been compassionate. 100%. My compassion happened because of that, because I didn't understand what that was and what that felt like. So once I finally felt like it, for me, every single lesson in my life, I wouldn't change one, nor would I want different outcomes. Because to want different outcomes is to not be you. Everything was special. I would say that moment where her and giving me compassion was huge. I then would I would say with Maya, I learned empathy. Because it was to be close with someone again, right? But it wasn't so much. It was more putting myself in that person's shoes. See, I wasn't able to do that in that prior relationship. And I haven't been in a relationship since. With that being said, it's because now I have such an understanding. I knew that, since those times, I was still building me. And even now that I'm built, I'm open, but I just take life and I enjoy it brand new every day. I have no expectation. It just whatever it is that the universe and synchronicity, the way it works, the way it flows, is the way I'm gonna live it. What I do know is that I have so much love around me. Because to be honest with you, the loves of my life are my people. I've been on a 5-year journey and it just feels like I've been collecting family members. And we've been on this incredible journey, changing one spirit, one soul, one heart at a time. And, to watch them grow, to watch who they've become, to see so much potential just exponentially just explode, and to see their contributions to the world, I'm in love with all of them. To me, they are all my heart. Like when I see the kids in New York and to see the impact we've had on them, it's incredible. And I tell you, like even when we do that work, like I focus on the kids, I don't focus on the adults, unless I'm doing leadership training, because I go into that world because it's for them. So they can have, examples, supermodels and super leaders, people to emulate. I'm bringing the haves to the have-nots so they can see what's possible. So I'm just so in love with the world. The idea of being madly in love with someone, I just don't think that that's the way it will work. I just believe that the right person for me will just kind of become a part of the love that I'm a part of now, and vice versa. And it's just gonna flow. To be honest with you, it's gonna be easy. It's just gonna be easy. Because it just when you have two people who know who they are and they're aware and they're not putting an expectation on that person's not putting an expectation on you, and they just have gratitude for what they can share, it's always a good outlook. So what happens when you have two people who can have the dialogue and always have a good outlook no matter how the day transitions? the reality is when you see relationships aren't working, it's just people just they rushed it. They're just not ready. They're not there yet. What happens when people start focusing on being there? What happens when people become the person that they want to attract? What happens when people fortify not only their nature and their internal, right? But what happens when they also prepare their external world to welcome somebody into their world and vice versa? And this is the best part. It's not even a union of the worlds. It's two worlds living alongside each other. And these two special beings, how they jump into each other's worlds in and out. And you know, you got these two planets just in orbit. And they start orbiting right next to each other. What more can you want? I think, you know, from my perspective, that's what love is. That's what love becomes. But that's a mature love. That it's a little different, you know. That's not ownership. That's not possessiveness. That's not like, oh, that's my girl. Or that's not like, you know, that's my wife. That's more like my what happens to my spirit when I'm next to that person is magical. You know, like me and that person's spirit, the way it intertwines, the dance, it's takes your breath away. You know, lets you know that you're alive. And the reason being is because the ultimate thing we do in this life is breathe. So when something takes your breath away, it has your full attention. But it becomes an addition. It never subtracts. It only adds. That's what's possible if you're willing to see it. But you have to be willing. Because your mind will not show you whatever it is that you don't show it. Whatever it is that you don't ask of it. And then, you know, the next thing you have to ask yourself, what is enough? You know, imagine the idea of a life where enough is your relationships. Because for me, my relationships are my abundance. It has nothing to do with the achievements. It has nothing to do with the success we've had. The abundance is the relationships. The abundance is the tables that have been built, the communities, you know? So in my mind, we have everything. Now we just get to live this journey together. It was beautiful because, you know, yesterday I was at the Adam Sandler show and he just showed his videos, you know, from when they were doing Saturday Night Live decades ago. And to see all that growth and to see all the people he brought up with him. And, you know, you just see a community of comedians and actors and producers that have stuck together and just built together. That's their table. And it's just gorgeous to see all that collaboration and you just see it. You know, the way he did that commencement shit. You know, he did a tribute to Chris Farley, passed away in 97. He did Tommy Boy, you know, American White Ninja. Like, we're in 2023 and he passed away in 97. And to see those spirits that is forever, you know, it's incredible when you see what interdependence, when you see what synchronicity, synergy, tribe, when you see community, what it can build and what happens over time. So my perspective as I'm watching, I'm reflecting and I see decades of work of people. So now I'm like, you know, automatically I'm thinking Get Fitness, 5 years. So what's going to happen when we hit our first decade? How big will the table be when there's 2 decades? So my perspective, I know where we're going. I don't know how far we're going to go. We're going to see how far we can go, but I know where we're going. So I'm just enjoying the day-to-day ride. I'm in no rush. Gift Fitness is only here to be great. I only know how to be great. The people around me only know how to be great. And the best part is, all we want to do is inspire others to be great. Just to take action every day. Take action. Do something every day. Contribute something to your life every day. Contribute something to yourself every day, because the more you contribute yourself to, the more that you become, the more you're going to inspire others to do, and the more you'll be able to give to others. Become. Go become. We become what we believe. Become. What would you do if you're not afraid? Don't be afraid. You are what you are. Go be. Imagine if your perspective is that everything in life is easy. And if done correctly, it'll be enjoyable. That's everything in life. Everything in life really is easy. Done correctly, it's enjoyable. That's what we teach. Everything in life must be easy, correct, and enjoyable. We complicate things. We think that we have to do a million things. You know, Bruce Lee said, I'd rather practice one kick 1,000 times than 1,000 kicks one time. Albert Einstein said, the secret to genius is simplicity. Right? So if you understand we are what we repeatedly do, excellence then is not an act, but a habit. That's Aristotle. You know, excellence, you're not born excellent. But if you practice at something, then you become excellent. And then take it further. When you practice one thing, then you eventually develop a perception that sees more than most. Because you've gathered so much information on it. Because it's just that one thing. You surround yourself by other great people, then now you're talking about all these great perceptions you have around you that are constantly adding to your perception and vice versa, you to theirs. So what happens when you go and you surround yourself with nothing but quality people, good energy, good perception, good vocabulary, know how to use the meaning of their words and what they know, and they know how to transfer that. I tell people all the time, you can't teach what I teach because you don't have my essence. You can repeat the words, but if you don't know the meaning or the understanding or have the awareness of my words, how can you transfer my essence? It takes time. Other than that, you're just a parrot. So what I see is a lot of people, they need to earn it. They need to earn some type of discipline, some type of work, create their own thing, or go find someone who's a master of something and go take an apprenticeship and take your time. For example, what I teach, my partner Preston, he's able to transmit that essence now. But it took him 5 years. So most people think that they're going to go and there's a shortcut. Like you can just go and do a half an hour or do 1 month or do 1 year. And all of a sudden you think that you'll be able to do what that person does. No. Because you're talking if let's say a blog has someone's, their effort for a day. Let's say an article, right, has someone's effort for 3-4 months. Let's say a book has someone's effort, and information from 15 years. Imagine a mastery. You're talking about a lifetime. You see, people don't understand that perspective about work so hard that things are effortless. Like, in order for something to be effortless, the first thing that you have to do is effort. And that effortlessness can only be earned. There's no shortcut. It can only be earned. So everyone wants things effortlessly, but what they don't see is how much effort has to go into effortlessly.
We are what we believe, everyone.